welcome to my Tennessee cooking channel. And today's video is going to be on how to make Italian meatball soup. So let's get started. I've already had my oven preheating and it's already got up to the 350 degrees. So be ready to put the meatballs in to bake whenever we get that done. So we're going to line like a cookie sheet with aluminum foil. And I'm just spraying it so they don't stick, because nothing worse than pulling off half your meatball when you got it in the pan and all. And you can use like a pound of Italian sausage, or even just plain sausage, or even ground beef. But I got the combination of ground beef and pork mixture for mine today, and I'm going to be adding my own spices. So we're going to put a pound of that into the dish to start off with the meatballs. So, and I don't know if y'all have a better way. I just usually cut mine like this. We'll put that over to the side and put it in the bowl. And my hands have been washed and dried, so I'm ready. And it's going to be one of those recipes that you have to mix with your hands again today to shake those meatballs and get them going. So, I got a pound of the meat in there, and you're going to add like a tablespoon of cooking oil, granola oil, olive oil, whatever kind of oil you've got to help mix it up. We are going to add a half a cup of breadcrumbs to this mixture. And that's the fourth. And you can just add regular breadcrumbs. I'm just happening to have Italian crumbs on hand, and it'll have a little bit more spice to my meatballs than a lot of people may like, but I think it makes just the right amount for it. And then we are going to have 1 egg. I'm going to do that in a separate dish to make sure we don't get any shells in. And you want to beat that egg up a little bit so it's not all white in one spot, or the yolk, so it's kind of separates. So giving the egg a good mix in here, and we're going to add that egg to it. And that makes me a wonderful little disposable thing here. And it says you can use garlic, the regular garlic in it, like one clove. And I don't have a clove of garlic today, but you can use the garlic powder. That should be just as good. And we are going to get us about, let's see what we got here. Well, it looks like I've got the last in this bottle, about 3/4 of a tablespoon of garlic powder. So I'm going to add that to my recipe here. And then it's just a little salt, and that depends on if you are watching your salt count or you don't like the taste of salt, very salty. But I'm just going to add about 1/4 teaspoon of salt to mine. And now I think I've got everything ready to mix up. And like I said, this is just to get your hands and getting it all incorporated together. And I'm thinking this is breadcrumbs is going to be enough. But if not, you think it's still too gooey, or I guess mushy or soft, or ever how you would like to say it, you can add more breadcrumbs. But I kind of like my meatballs with some moisture in it, so I don't want to add too many crumbs and take away all that moisture to it. And you can make your meatballs as big or small as you like. And as of course you know, if there are a lot bigger meatballs that you've made, that you are going to have to cook them a little longer. Now that I've got the bread crumbs kind of all mixed in, and the salt and the garlic powder, we're going to just make our meatballs up. Just put them in your hands and roll them, and however how big you'd like them. And I will show you about how big mine are when I get through with it on the pan, and how many it made for that amount. Well, actually this is about how big I'm going to have it, because I think it looks real pretty when you start serving your soup if you see a meatball or two in it. The good thing is if you make too many meatballs for the amount of soup that you're making, if you're just making for like maybe 2 people or whatever, you can put the extra meatballs in the refrigerator and have them for like making you a meatball stroganoff or something. So it doesn't have to be a one-day thing. You can end up making this soup on one day, and maybe the next day you're decided that you'd like to have stroganoff made with it. Instead of having just plain slices of beef, you'll have meatballs on your stroganoff filling. So, I've evidently made my meatballs a little larger than most people would. The recipe says that it would approximately make 14 meatballs, and it looks like I have 3, 6, 9, 11 on mine. So there's my meatballs. Sorry they're sliding down. I'm gonna straighten them back out in the pan and put them in the oven. Well, I've decided to make a large serving of this soup. I'll either have leftovers for tomorrow, which we like leftovers, or I could even share it with somebody, and I may be doing that. And I put the whole box of this, it is a 16-ounce box of rigatoni in it, and a dash of salt and some water. And a lot of people go ahead and have their water boiling or warm before they do it. I usually don't, so I'm going to get that done, and then we'll get the soup put together. While my noodles was boiling, I decided to go ahead and saute my onions for it. And I put like 2 tablespoons of cooking oil, olive oil, whatever kind of oil you have, and a half a cup of onions together and sauteed them so we'd get that ready. And I've already got it sauteed and they kind of look like this. So now I'm going to assemble the soup for you. Well, my pasta has finished cooking, and it took about 12 to 15 minutes for it to get tender. And I've now drained it, added a quart of water over top of my pasta. So I'm going to add all the rest of my ingredients, which is that half a cup of onion I sauteed, and it calls for like a half a can, which is about 15 ounces. This one I think is 14.5 of diced tomatoes to go in it. You can also put carrots and different other things in it, but I'm just going to put tomatoes. And since I like tomatoes a lot, I think I'm going to just go ahead and see how that turns out with adding a whole can to mine. Now you realize your pasta's already cooked, so it doesn't have to have anything, mainly just to heat it up. But we've got to add a little Italian seasoning to make it have that good Italian flavor to it. And I'm going to add probably about 2 tablespoons of that in here. I'm also going to add some chicken powder, you would call it. It says bouillon, chicken bouillon powder. And I'm going to add a couple of, well, actually it's a tablespoon and a half of broth to this powder. And see how that looks when we get it going. And we'll know if it's going to be enough or not. You may or may not want to add a little bit more salt, but it's according to yours. And I'm going to be adding, when it gets good and hot, the meatballs on it and some Parmesan shredded cheese in it to give it that cheesy taste. But I want to get all this broth flavor mix, so we're going to put it on the stove again. Thought I would show you my meatballs while the soup is getting hot and coming to a boil so it can get everything incorporated with the taste. And my meatballs are a little bigger, like I said, probably than most people's and everything, because it says it usually will make about 14 to a half a pound, not a half a pound, I'm sorry, 1 pound of the meat, and I ended up with just 11, so mine are a little bit bigger. I've decided to put Parmesan cheese in my soup today, and I have a 6-ounce container here of shredded Parmesan cheese. I'm going to put all of it in my soup mixture, except just a little bit where I'll use that to sprinkle on the top. But the soup, we could have added carrots, garlic, pepper flakes, celery. All that could have been added, and you could have actually sauteed like the carrots and the celery and the garlic with the onion when you did. But I'm not overloading my soup today, and but we are going to give it plenty of cheese. I decided to go ahead and use all the meatballs since I made such a big pot of soup today, and instead of saving some. And I'm just, as you can see, the smoke is coming, but I'm just waiting for the last little bit of that cheese to melt and the meatballs to get it warming up and start bubbling in there and have it good and hot. This is what the finished product looks like, and I'm going to sprinkle a little leftover of the Parmesan cheese on it, and then it's ready to serve with maybe some garlic bread or crackers, or even cornbread if you're from the South you might like. So let me do the sprinkle of the Parmesan cheese. And this is what it looks like after sprinkling the cheese on top. It would have looked a little better if I had some fresh basil leaves to put on top, or parsley or something green just to give it a little more color to it. But I've already tasted it, and it doesn't affect the taste at all by having that greenery on it. It tasted really good. Thanks so much for watching.